Hey folks, you find me once again staring at an engine that doesn't work in a Mark I Volkswagen Cabriolet. Since my last video though, I have verified the timing on this thing, and really what I want to say is this thing was screwing me up because it was off by like 160 degrees or whatever, and I found out the reason why it was timed that way is because I've since pulled the timing belt off and the pulleys off, and for some reason the mark on the pulley was about 160 degrees off from where the flywheel notches are. And at the end of the day, whoever did the timing belt before or was trying to get this started, probably followed the right rules, i.e. lining up that mark with the one on the balance shaft, etc., and then the camshaft. But it was clearly wildly off, and the verification of that, which was the next thing I did, was I took the valve cover off, and like at top dead center, the second valve in, which I guess that would be an exhaust valve, looking there randomly, was wide open. So clearly the timing was off there. So I verified again that everything was the way it should be when I marked the timing by the flywheel notches, right? The dot is 0, and then the actual longer notch rather is 6 degrees. So I fixed all that, and I've retimed it, redone the spark plug wires, and the damn thing still doesn't start. So what I am left with now is, in my last video, I clearly checked that the fuel injectors were working on their own, but I don't, now it's come down to two things. I have a compression tester, which I'm going to get to, but I'm also going to pull the injectors out of the motor, out of the intake, leave them attached to the fuel rail so I can see if the ECM is actually firing. So that's my next step here. And then if that's working, then I'm doing a compression test, which I should have done all along, I know. But a compression test, remember, wouldn't work properly if I didn't have the valves timed, because of, obviously, if the valves were opening at the wrong time, then I would get a false compression reading. So I'm at my last two tests before I determined that this motor is a complete bust. So I'm really hoping it's the ECM, because that's a lot cheaper than a motor, but let's see what it is. So anyway, that's a long intro to this video, and that's what it's about. So continuing saga of Doris, the 1990, what would this be? Pepto-Bismol pink Volkswagen Cabriolet. So let's get at it. So I'm here at the fuel rail, and I've just done the two 10mm bolts there so I can get some leverage, some wiggle room on this thing. And what I have done, I can't do it with holding the camera, but my lovely assistant in there was cranking the car. Well, I had this out enough that I could put my fingers underneath the fuel injectors to actually see if they were pulsing and getting fuel. So regrettably, because replacing the ECU over there would be much easier than doing more here, certainly the number 1 and 4 were firing, and I can see evidence that number 2 and 3 were firing also, or shooting fuel as they should. So it looks like the ECU is working fine. So now we're on to the compression test. Well, as you saw in that hopefully sped up footage, my second compression test, I used a car next to this thing because the battery was kind of getting weak and I didn't think I was getting an accurate reading. So I boosted it with a car that was running with lots of juice. I got 120 on cylinder 1, 150, 120, and 120 from 1 to 4. So that's within spec. And as you saw in the previous part of this video, I verified that the ECU is actually triggering the spark plugs. So I'm out of ideas. I know 120, again, and it varies between whatever gauge you use. I mean, I get that, but I think I'm confident enough that, I screwed the thing in tightly, spun the motor quick enough, went right up. Each cylinder kind of behaved the same. So I think, I have some reasonable faith in the gauge. I have reasonable faith in how I plugged, screwed the gauge into the spark plug holes. I mean, that sounds silly, but, you got to make sure that's tight so you get a proper reading. I'm out of ideas. I've got this thing timed. I got fuel out of the injectors. I've got the distributor timed where it should be. The valves are set where they're supposed to be, and so I'm stymied, folks. I really don't know what else I can test here. Oops, something just fell. So I think my next option is I got to tow this thing to an expert, and then I'll happily let all you folks know what went on here, and we'll see what he says. But barring that, I've still got my eye open for a 1.8 or maybe a 2-liter 8-valve motor that I'm going to put in this thing instead. So that would be much more fun as far as content and as far as wrenching, because I love doing that. But I wanted to solve the problem, man. Anyway, thank you folks, for those of you who have made it to the end of this very, very random and rambling video. That's cool. Please let me know if you have any comments below with respect to what I can do to fix this thing. So anyway, as always, thanks for watching. Click like, click subscribe if you haven't already, please. And I'll see you in the next video. All the best, folks. Okay, I thought that was going to be the end of my video, but as I was buttoning this thing back up to get it ready to get it on the tow truck, I mean, I put all the pieces back in. I reset the timing on the distributor, like just so that I could have an intelligent conversation with a nice gentleman who would end up working on it. But then you'll absolutely laugh at this. So here, I'm going to reposition you folks. Get a load of this. Now that certainly isn't perfect, but really, what the hell is going on? Why is it working now? That honestly just makes me howl. So I mean, a few things can clearly make some sense here, I guess. Maybe, like again, to begin this project, I put as much fresh fuel in the tank as I could to mix with. It was pretty low, but I didn't have a mechanism to drain the fuel out of the tank. So I put as much fresh fuel in as I possibly could. So maybe it just finally worked its way out and was coming through. I mean, I don't know. This is hilarious. All I did was put the timing right back to where it was, because I'd been messing with it trying to get it to go a little better, but there it is. So figure that one out, folks. But I seem to have a quasi-running Mark I pink Cabriolet. So stay tuned for more fun and games with this thing. I obviously have to put coolant in it. I've got to put better hoses on it. You know, the engine bay is pretty rough. It needs a bunch of work. So that'll come, but at least the damn thing's running. Go figure. Anyway, as I say, please like if you haven't already. Subscribe if you think I might be worth it. And as always, we'll see you in the next video, folks. Take care.